South Africans. I'm addressing you this evening.
All your years of paying tax, you helped us overcome our darkest hour. You, along with every other loyal taxpayer, helped build this nation. Thank you for every life you saved and for every risk you braved, for giving our future generation a healthy start. When you saw many of our vulnerable communities, you provided for them. When you saw our healthcare workers on the front lines battling COVID, you rose to the occasion and gave them the tools to save lives. Without your tax compliance, we wouldn't be able to fight a good fight. Thank you for contributing to the important services our vulnerable communities rely on every day. To all taxpayers and traders, continue to pay your tax because it matters to millions of South Africans who depend on it. Your tax matters.
Very good evening and warm welcome to our taxpayers, my fellow colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hansen Msongweni. I'll be facilitating the program today. Today's webinar is about dispute process for SARS. Yes, you heard me right. Today it's about our taxpayers' rights. One of our values here in SARS is fairness. Hence, today we wanted to be open and fair to our taxpayers, particularly our SMMEs, by outlining the taxpayers' rights or dispute process should you be unhappy with SARS actions or decision in dealing with your tax matters. Before we can commence with our webinar this evening, I would like to highlight to you the following housekeeping. Our webinar will entail a presentation which will outline the dispute process. We will also have a demonstration on how to log your dispute with SARS. After that, we are going to have a questions and answers session where we will be responding to all the questions that you will be sent to us. Please post all your questions either on the Q&A chat box here on this Zoom, or you can also send your questions to disputeprocess@sars.gov.za. This email address will only be available for the duration of this webinar. Due to the POP Act, please do not post any personal information when asking questions today in this webinar. We are also live in the SARS YouTube platform, and the recording can also be found on the YouTube channel. Should you encounter any technical glitch or you have a load shedding, these presentations will be available in our website at the end of the webinar. And you can have access to this webinar in our YouTube platform at the later stage. At the later stage of our webinar as well, you'll be prompted to complete a short survey. Please complete this survey as much as possible, as we would like to receive your feedback on the quality of the information shared. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for making us and joining us. And join me in welcoming our keynote speaker for this evening, who will give us the keynote address and set the tone for our webinar. Our opening remarks will be presented to you by Michelle Hawkins. Michelle is a specialist tax court litigation within the litigation unit here in SARS. She has 8 years of experience. Her role entails resolving tax dispute from appeal stage on, working closely with the legal community, tax practitioner, and audit teams within the organization. She is an active member of the internal pleading review panel, and we are so privileged to have her in this organization because she also acts as a mentor for the junior consultant in the tax court unit. Academically, Michelle holds a Master in Tax Law degree from the University of Pretoria. She has been admitted attorney since the year 2003. Michelle, you are welcome to give us the opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Program Director, and a warm and welcome evening to everybody, all our colleagues and members of the public, especially a warm welcome to the taxpayers representing our SSMEs. This webinar was specifically designed to engage and educate you as the taxpayer representing the SSMEs, especially when you feel aggrieved by an assessment that was raised or a decision that was taken. The processes that will be explained tonight includes the alternative dispute resolution process, as well as the litigation process, be it in the tax board or the tax court. Typically, these processes start once you've filed a notice of appeal, after you've received the outcome of your objection against your disputed assessment or decision. One of our colleagues, Joanne Clark, will take you through a very detailed presentation that we put together explaining to you how these processes work. After that, Ayanda Takela will then demonstrate to you how to file the disputes on the e-filing platform. We will highlight to you the common issues that we experience that cause delays in finalizing the disputes on the tax matters. Please feel free, as indicated by the Program Director, to engage with us and ask questions for clarity. You as the SMME is required in terms of our tax legislation to declare and report your business income in terms of whichever tax act applies. It also allows you to claim specific expenses within the time periods prescribed in the tax acts. Failure to do so leads to the imposition of penalties and interest. That also leads to a very aggrieved taxpayer with a disputed assessment. The Tax Administration Act and its rules that were promulgated in terms of this act provide you with mechanisms and processes to raise your dispute against these assessments. The officials employed in the ADR and litigation unit are all competent, qualified professionals who strive to ensure that taxpayers and traders who do not comply are engaged in the correct manner within the boundaries of the law to enforce compliance and to respect the legal processes at all times. It's important to note that alternative dispute resolution process takes place without prejudice. This means you are attempting to resolve the dispute without resorting to litigation. So anything discussed and exchanged in that space cannot be used in subsequent litigation processes. Should your ADR fail and you cannot reach a settlement or resolution on your dispute, you then have the right to proceed to either the tax board or the tax court. Joanne will take you through these processes in detail. If you do experience problems in obtaining an outcome to your objection, this is now prior to the tax court processes. The tax court rules do provide for certain mechanisms which you can apply to request SARS to act on the objection that you have filed. The email address that you can utilize, which I will post in the Q&A box, is taxcourtlitigation@sars.gov.za. All the tax court and high court judgments, which include your Supreme Court of Appeal and Constitutional Court judgments relating specifically to tax matters, are loaded onto the SARS website under Legal Counsel. We did so to educate and inform taxpayers on the outcome of these legal processes and how we can ensure performance excellence. We at Dispute Resolution strive to live the SARS values, and we operate within the 9 key strategic objectives. We are there at your service, and we hope that this webinar will assist you in understanding these processes better, so as to enable both you and us to resolve your disputes. We hope that you enjoy this webinar. Thank you, Mr. Program Director. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Michelle. Thank you very much for that outstanding and wonderful remarks that you have just given us. You have shared with us the background and the aim and how this webinar will unfold. So we really appreciate that and thank you very much for that. I would like to remind you, taxpayers, that please continue sending us the questions through the email platform that has been created for this webinar, which is disputeprocess@sars.gov.za. I also see some questions in the Q&A. We want to encourage you to continue sending us those questions. Our colleagues are there to respond to the questions. Please remember not to send personal information. We are also governed by the POP Act, so it's important that you only stick to the questions, and our colleagues will be in the position to respond to all the questions at a later stage through the questions and answers session. I would like to take this opportunity now to invite you to the next item of our webinar, which is the presentation part of this webinar. We have two presentations that will be presented by two of our colleagues. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you my colleagues, Joanne. Joanne Clark holds a national diploma in accounting and a higher diploma in taxation. She's currently a taxpayer educator in our Nelspruit office in Mpumalanga, where she is responsible for providing taxpayers with clarity and certainty of their tax obligation. Her career at SARS spans over 30 years of experience in various income tax related areas. Joanne have realized her passion for education in early years in her career at SARS from the SARS Tax Academy. Joanne, please take us through the presentations.
Good evening, South Africa, and welcome to our session this evening. I will be sharing with you the dispute resolution process. It's a guideline that's there to assist all our SMMEs. Our presentations are merely to provide information in an easily understandable format and is intended to make provisions of the legislation more accessible. The information therefore has no legal binding effect, and the relevant legislation must be consulted in the event of any doubt as to the meaning of the application of any provision. So I'd like to welcome you first to the SARS Vision, the 2024, to build a smart, modern SARS with unquestionable integrity, trusted and admired by government, the public, as well as our international peers. And for this purpose of presentation, I'm going to focus on the strategic objectives below. I'm going to show you how to make it easy and simple to comply. I'm going to create your awareness, clarity, and certainty. I'm going to make it hard to not comply. And remember, we've modernized systems to provide a seamless online digital services. And from this information, we're going to use data for insights, risks, and improve our outcomes. So our discussions for this evening, we're going to look at some definitions and acronyms. We're looking at the SMME rights and obligations. We have an overview, a dispute type, the alternate dispute resolution, the tax court process, and the service timeframes for the dispute. So here are some of the terms that you're going to hear tonight, and some of the most important ones. SMME, our small, medium, and micro enterprises, and the ADR1, the alternative dispute resolution. So the overview tonight, and we've been discussing it, it's a dispute resolution process, and it's initiated by you, the taxpayer, when you are aggrieved by an assessment or you're not satisfied by a decision that has been taken by SARS. And you have the right that you can request for an objection or an appeal. And with that, let me introduce you to Chapter 9 of the Tax Administration Act and the rules there under Section 103. And these rules will provide you with a framework for these disputes, and it will be across all tax types that are found in the tax acts that is administered by SARS, and it will exclude the Customs and Excise Act. So you can lodge a dispute against the following: if there's been interest and penalties raised on late payment, or if there's an assessment in relation to your personal income tax, your corporate income tax, also value-added tax or pay-as-you-earn, and everything that is linked to the pay-as-you-earn. So some of the common errors that we are picking up that SMMEs are submitting, and these errors can delay the dispute process. Submitting of incorrect declarations, underestimations, then SARS is going to raise an assessment, and thereby this can lead to a dispute. Remember the prescribed timeframes for submitting your documents, and if not adhered to, we can raise an assessment. When you're capturing a return, ensure that the figures that you're capturing are correct. Remember, your cents must be excluded. Otherwise, wrong figures are captured, and this will lead to a dispute. Remember, if you fail to submit your tax returns, we are going to impose administration penalties, and this might lead to a dispute. When you are submitting your objection, you need to show us exactly your issues, and that you must file your objection and your legal grounds to support that objection. So if your objection is not clear, it will be invalidated, and this can delay your objection process. Failure to furnish your full contact details, especially email addresses, and this will be for your notice of appeal, and this will result in a delay in receiving your notice in terms of the Rule 13. And other general issues, are you maybe submitting the wrong request for correction whilst it should be an objection? When taxpayers request a reduced assessment in terms of Section 93, or when you are auto-assessed, but you omit to submit and file your objection timeously. So you're going to see these are the type of penalties that we're going to talk to you about. There's two parts. Part B is a fixed amount. Your fixed amount to disclose reportable arrangements is the failure where listed in a public notice to comply with the obligations in tax legislation, other than failures that lead to a percentage base. Underestimation or understatement of reportable arrangements and penalties presented failure, and by persons to submit an income tax and a diamond and export levy return, or to meet the FATCA reporting obligations. Your FATCA is your Foreign Account Tax Compliant Acts, and then to meet the OECD, the CRS obligations. Your OECD is your Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, and we've got the common reporting standards. So these are going to be fixed amounts. And then your percentage amount, you're going to see the common percentage we're charging you is 10%. And be it throughout all our tax acts, there's 10%, especially for a late payment. So clients, please make sure your payments are made on time to avoid this penalty and interest. The flow of the dispute resolution. You will receive a decision or an assessment from SARS, and you've got three choices. You can accept that decision or assessment, which means that your assessment or decision is final. You can request a reason and wait for our reply before you can either accept or you can lodge an objection. If you're going to lodge an objection, remember to submit it via the correct channels. An objection, if it's allowed, your assessment or the decision will be reassessed. which means your assessment or decision final. However, if your objection is disallowed, remember, you still have two options. You can accept the disallowed objection, which means your assessment is final. Otherwise, you can go to the appeal route where you can use the alternative dispute resolution. So some of the dispute types that I'm going to be discussing, the first one will be a request for remission, and that will be for administrative penalties for non-compliance. The second one is a notice of objection, and the third one will be a notice of appeal. There are remedies that are also available for you through this dispute process: the request for reason and the suspension of payment. So the first one I'm looking at, the request for reason. A client has received an assessment or a decision by SARS, but maybe there's a query that they would like to answer. So they can ask a question. They can ask SARS, how did you raise that amount on my assessment? Or why is this on my tax liability? So if you are aggrieved, you can request for the reason. And this will also assist in later on if you have to formulate your objection. So you are entitled to request a reason from SARS. So how can you request a reason? And you can request the reason by being made on a prescribed form and manner. And remember your timelines, ladies and gentlemen. You will need to submit the request within 30 business days from the date of the assessment. You can request this by e-filing and the SARS branch. But remember, at the SARS branch, you will need to make sure you have an appointment, and that will be for the personal income tax, corporate income tax, value-added tax, and the pay-as-you-earn. So once it's confirmed that your request for reason is valid against the assessment item, and the period with which that you need to submit an objection will be lodged, will be automatically extended through this dispute resolution process. So when may I request a reason? When an original assessment, verification, or an audit is complete by SARS and resulted in a notice of assessment. So for example, you received the notice of assessment for income tax, that's an RTA 34, or you received an assessment for VAT, which is your VAT 217, or you have received an assessment notice for your pay-as-you-earn, which is the EMP 217. Where an RFR for an account-related item has been finalized with an outcome that has either disallowed or partially allowed your request, or where a decision was taken by SARS to raise an additional assessment. So please note, if you are using the request for reason for anything that is specified above, your request for a reason will be declined. So the request for remission, this is for administration penalties for non-compliance. So as a taxpayer, you can lodge a request for remission against personal income tax and corporate income tax, where administrative penalties have been raised. So you'll see the South African Revenue Services will issue a penalty notice, which is an AP 34, and we will notify you via SMS or email to tell you you will need to log onto your e-filing to open up your correspondence. And these penalties have been raised for the non-compliance. So penalties for the personal income tax and corporate income tax are levied in terms of the Chapter 15 of the Tax Administration Act. And the Act will prescribe the type of non-compliance that is subject to a fixed amount. So currently penalties are imposed on individual taxpayers for the following transgressions. It's for non-submission of income tax returns, and these returns are going to be included with a late submission. The penalties are fixed based, which means that they're going to be on a set amount. So how do we determine that set amount? And we will base it on the taxpayer's taxable income. So the penalty can range from anything from 250 Rand up until 16,000 Rand. And this penalty will be for each month that the non-compliance continues. Administrative penalties recur each month that the taxpayer is non-compliant, up to a maximum of 35 months. Each recurring penalty you will see will have a unique transaction number. Beware, clients, if you have not submitted your return. We are communicating with you. From the 1st of December, if you have not submitted your return, you will see we can charge you administrative penalties. So please, can I ask you, ensure that you have submitted your assessment and that you have received the correspondence in this regard. So taxpayers, you can also object to the imposition of certain other administrative non-compliance penalties. And this is where interest has been raised or penalties have been raised. For example, if you are submitting a provisional tax return, but you're submitting late and you're making your payment late, we can charge you a penalty for that being late. Other type of penalties that we will have, your understatement penalty is where you've underdeclared or understated your income. Your tax-free investment penalty, this is where we've picked up that maybe you invested more than the 36,000. Employee tax incentive, the sectorial wage penalty. Have we picked up that you're claiming the ETI for employees that are earning below the threshold of 2,000 Rand? Or a displacement penalty for the ETI? Are we picking up that you're displacing employees so that you can benefit from this ETI? The underestimation penalty, paragraph 20, we're picking up from what your actual assessment is to that your estimated income that you have claimed on your provisional tax is too low. Or your reportable arrangements, where you are not reporting those arrangements in regards to the tax benefit that a client can receive. And that will be a penalty for both the promoter and the person receiving the benefit. So a notice of objection, what is your objection? It's a formal internal review process and it resolves dispute between you, the taxpayer, and SARS. And it will be about a SARS assessment of your tax liability. So remember, you have the right to object to such assessment. Remember though, if you have submitted a self-assessment, you don't have the right to object. Now, a self-assessment will be, for example, the submission of your own VAT 201 that you are submitting on the bi-monthly, or the monthly pay-as-you-earn, the EMP 201, or where SARS has not raised an assessment, so then you can't do an objection. But anything other, you will be able to raise an objection. So remember the timelines, ladies and gentlemen, it's extremely important. An objection must be submitted within 30 business days after the date of assessment or a SARS decision. If you submitted a request for a reason and the objection must be submitted within 30 business days after the date that the notice was sent through with the adequate reason so that it's been provided so you can submit your objection, or the date that SARS provides you with the reason or the further reason so that you can place your objection. So how do you go about lodging an objection? And you will see that we have automated the dispute management workflow process, and it will exist for the tax types, your corporate income tax, your personal income tax, your VAT, and your pay as you earn. The dispute form that you're going to use is called a notice of objection. It's a DISP 01. And this form can only be submitted via e-filing. So don't print the DISP 01 and try email it or post it. It will not be accepted. It will only be accepted through the electronic channel and submitted via the e-filing. Now, what happens if you're submitting an objection late? As a taxpayer, you need to provide us with the reasons why you are submitting late. And if your grounds for the late submission, it will be considered. And if we are viewed that it is reasonable, or if there are exceptional circumstances, we can allow the late submission, so it will be condoned. With us extending the period of submission by the objection by 30 days, only if the reasonable grounds exist. And if we do condone your late submission, we will proceed to consider your offer about the grounds for objection. However, if you have got no valid reasons, remember, we can disallow your objection. But remember, you do have another option against our decision, and you can then object and go through to the appeal basis so that you can submit your appeal. But continuing with late objections, please note, if you are trying to submit an objection and it is more than 3 years after the date of assessment or the SARS decision that's taken, or if the grounds of objection are based wholly and mainly on a change in practice that's generally prevailing, which applies to the date of the assessment or decision, we will not allow you or accept the objection. So when you are completing your DISP 01, the notice of objection, remember there are certain codes that you will need to enter into your form. And here are some of the special codes that we have used. So for example, if you're objecting against the tax-free investment penalty, remember this is a penalty that we have raised because it has exceeded the amount allowed of 36,000. You're going to use the code 9987. And for example, if you haven't submitted your provisional return, the RP6s, we can charge you a penalty in terms of paragraph 20, and you can then object to that with the code 9991. So these codes are available to you to make it easy for you to complete your return. Now, one of the common questions that we have by clients when they are trying to submit an objection is, do I have to make my payment? The obligation to pay tax, which arises from the issue of an assessment, is not automatically suspended by an objection or appeal. We are ruled by the Section 164 of the Tax Administration Act, which is known as the pay now or argue later. But remember, you can request for a suspension of payment of the tax or a portion thereof that is under the assessment. And if you are going to put a dispute in the liability to pay that tax, you have that option. But remember, if you are submitting a suspension of payment, but you haven't lodged your objection, or you haven't lodged your appeal because your objection was disallowed, or your appeal to the tax board or the tax court is unsuccessful, your suspension of payment will be disallowed. And please remember, you need to make sure that you are 100% compliant. So you can't be non-compliant through this process. Make sure that you submit all your tax returns and make sure that your payments are made on time. And make sure if you have a deferred arrangement that you stick to the arrangement. So when you apply for the suspension of payment and all the requirements are met, SARS will inform you of the decision within 30 days of receipt of your complete and accurate supporting documents. And remember, we're not going to institute any collection steps during this period or after we have notified you. And only 10 days after we have informed you that your request has been declined, or after you have received notice that there's already an approved suspension of payment. And this above applies unless there's reasonable belief that there is a risk of dissipation of assets. So what to expect when you have submitted your objection And when will you receive notification when it is finalized? At SARS, we're going to endeavor to notify the taxpayer of the allowance or disallowance of the objection and the basis thereof within 60 business days after the delivery of the objection. This period is going to be extended to 45 business days after the delivery of the requested documentation, or if the documentation was not delivered, the expiry of the period within which the documents should have been delivered. So if your objection is allowed, either partially or in whole, SARS is going to issue a revised assessment. So remember your notice assessment that will be sent to you. If it's for income tax, you're going to receive an ITA 34. If it's in regards to value added tax, you're going to receive a VAT 201. If it's for the pay as you earn, you're going to receive the assessment notice, the MP 217. And this information, with the objection that was in the form of the DIS P01, and the notice of the outcome of the objection, and the notice of assessment, it will be made available to you on e-filing. And remember, we will send you communication to say to you that you will need to log on to your e-filing profile and view the correspondence. Where the objection was in the form of an ADR1, the notification or the outcome of the objection and the notice of assessment, where applicable, will be made available to you via email or post. So please, ladies and gentlemen, make sure that we have all your current contact details to make it easier. Now, the last step, what is the appeal? If you're in disagreement with the decision that's made by SARS in the consideration of your objection, you have the right to appeal that decision. So when can you lodge an appeal? And as a taxpayer, you must deliver a notice of appeal within 30 business days after SARS has delivered the notice of disallowance or partial allowance of the objection. This period may be extended by 21 days if SARS is satisfied that the reasonable grounds exist for the delay. And then the 30-day period may be extended to another 45 business days if we are satisfied as SARS that there are exceptional circumstances that exist in the delay. So how will you lodge an appeal? And it is in the same process as the objection. It's an automatic dispute management workflow process, and it will exist for your corporate income tax, your personal income tax, your employer's tax, your pay as you earn, and the value added tax. And this can be submitted via e-filing. So very similar with the objection, what happens if you're submitting late? It's the exact same rules. You need to give us the reasons regarding your late submission, and it will be the same outcome as with the objection. But please note, no appeal can or will be allowed to be submitted if it's more than 75 business days after the date of the decision to disallow your objection. So what can you expect from SARS when you are going to put in an appeal? There's three options that you can go through. The first one will be the alternate dispute resolution. The second one will be the tax board. The third one will be the tax court. At SARS, we endeavor to consider if a matter is suitable for the ADR, and that we will do within 30 business days from the date that the request was received. So the alternative dispute resolution. If there's a mutual agreement between SARS and the client that is making the appeal, that we can attempt to resolve this dispute through this ADR process, we will follow certain procedures specified in the rules. And the ADR process is less formal and inexpensive than the court process, and it will allow the dispute to be resolved within a much shorter period. So remember, when you are submitting your notice of appeal, you will need to indicate on that form if you are wanting to use the ADR dispute resolution process, and if these procedures are available to you. And if we are satisfied that the matter is appropriate for the ADR, we will ensure that we will inform you accordingly. So as a taxpayer, you must, within 30 business days of the receipt of the notice that we send you, you must either agree or disagree to the following of the ADR process. And should you wish not to use the ADR procedures, remember, you will need to submit a termination of proceedings, which is Rule 25. And that rule, the termination procedure, it must be filed at the clerk, with the clerk on the tax board. So this will set matters down for a formal hearing. And remember, you will have 20 days in which to do this submission. When cases go through to the tax court, if it's for the jurisdiction of the appeal and it's less than 1 million rand, the matter can be proceeded to the tax board. As a taxpayer, however, you may elect to refer this appeal to the tax court. And the tax court appeal is adjudicated by the High Court judge and 2 assessors. The right to appeal to the full bench is applicable to the Supreme Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court. So as a court, it will not have the same status as the High Court, but as a tribunal, created by statute and only has the powers afforded it by law. The tax court is presided over by judges of the High Court and appointed assessors. The registrar of the tax court is responsible for the administration of the tax court. Now, the tax court has jurisdiction over the following matters. If it's a tax appeal against an assessment or a decision, or where the taxes in dispute will exceed R1 million, or if it's for important tax principles that are involved. The tax appeal is launched afresh or the de novo if a taxpayer or SARS is dissatisfied with the ruling of the tax board. And then the interlocutory applications in respect of the dispute assessment is adjudicated in the tax court before the judge. So SARS must file a statement of ground of assessment and opposed appeal, which is your Rule 31. And we must do this within 45 days after the date of appeal or the date of termination of the ADR. The taxpayer, you have 45 days to file an answer. And to do this, you will complete a statement of ground of appeal, and that is in terms of the Rule 32. And if you fail to do so within the 45 days, SARS, we're going to issue a notice of compel so that you will have to be filing it, and that will be within 15 days. If the taxpayer after 15 days fails to file the Rule 32, the statement of ground of appeal, SARS may proceed with an application for default judgment against you, the taxpayer, without further notice. If the ADR was terminated, remember, as a taxpayer, if you elect to use the tax board, you will need to file your notice. And remember, it's a termination of proceedings in terms of Rule 23. And that notice of termination will make sure that you intend to appeal at the tax court. And if this is not done within 20 days after the date of termination of the ADR process, the appeal will become final. So let's have a look at some of the service time frames. So unless otherwise agreed upon, and when no exceptional circumstances arise from the warrant, an extension to the response period, SARS will provide a reason within 45 business days from the date of your receipt of your request. Remember, your request for reason is why has SARS raised something on your assessment or made that decision. When making a decision of objections, we will do it within 60 business days from the date of lodging the objection. We'll decide on the suitability of the case for the alternate dispute resolution in the ADR request and inform you within 30 business days from the date of receipt of the request. We will finalize ADR proceedings within 90 business days from the date of commencement of the ADR, or within further period as which may be agreed upon. If SARS does not concede an appeal, or if no agreement is reached after the alternate dispute resolution proceedings are held, a taxpayer is at liberty to give notice to the tax board for a consideration. So remember, a taxpayer, you may elect not to proceed to the tax board and elect rather to proceed to the tax court. And in this instance, remember, you will need to submit your termination of proceedings and you will need to file it at the tax court. So if you still have a complaint about a quality of service or the speed of service, or unresolved issues, or missing documentation, or behavior incompetences, or are you experiencing problems with the environment, or for example, parking at the branch, or if there's legal or policy, you have 3 options in which to send your complaint through. You can do it via e-filing, through the SARS branch, from the SARS Complaint Management Office, the CMO. Their number is here, 0860 121216. And if you have lodged a complaint and yet you are still unhappy, you can go via the Ombudsman office and lodge a complaint. So at the Tax Ombudsman, you have 3 options that you can submit your complaint. You can contact them on the number 0800 662 537, or you can send them an email at complaints@taxombud.gov.za, or go directly to their website and you can complete an online complaint form. To make items easier for you to do, for example, if you want to submit supporting documents, you can go to our SARS website, to our online services, and you can submit through our online services. So as you can see, you can submit supporting documents. So if SARS is asking you for supporting documents to go with your notice of appeal, you can do so here. If you're looking to see what your tax compliance status is, you can go here. And remember, when you submit via these routes, you will get confirmation from us. So that will be your online digital channels. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, use our digital channels. We are making it as easy for you. So register for e-filing via the sars.efiling.co.za and see our SARS online query system to see how it can help you. And that's sars.gov.za. And come visit us on our social media, our Facebook and Twitter. And remember, for more information, you can visit us on the SMME webpage on the SARS website. Or if you like to watch TV, you can watch our SARS YouTube channel and get the updated videos, and this will help you. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'd like now to introduce you to my next colleague, Ayanda Takela. Ayanda is the supporting manager for the SARS e-filing and EasyFile. She is a head and she supports all the consultants nationwide for e-filing and EasyFile. Ayanda, please share your presentation so we can see how easy it is for you to file a dispute.
Can proceed, Ayanda.
Thank you. Thank you. Please pardon that disruption in connection. Thank you, Joanne, for that wonderful introduction. And also thank you for that informative session with regards to how do we go about doing the dispute process with SARS. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Joanne has advised, I am Ayanda Takela. Today I have with me from e-filing team, Fulufelo Mandiwana, who's one of our support consultants for Gauteng and Northern Cape. So please feel free to put in your e-filing questions on the live chat as well as the question and answers. Myself and Fulufelo are here to address your e-filing challenges. So today I'll be going through how do you go about doing the dispute process on e-filing. So an overview of what I will discuss this evening is, how do you access the admin penalty statement of account from your SARS e-filing profile? How do you access the request for remission or the notice of objection or the notice of appeal on SARS e-filing? How do you go about submitting a new dispute? And also, how do you withdraw a dispute that has already been submitted with SARS? So let's have a look at the steps on how to access the admin statement of account, which is the SOA. This deals with the dispute process of administrative penalties for personal income tax and corporate tax only. How do you access it on your e-filing? You log into your e-filing profile and you click on returns at the top, SARS correspondence on the left, select request admin penalty SOA, which will also be on the left. Then you select the tax period which you want to dispute for, then you click on continue. So to demonstrate it on your e-filing, you're going to click on returns, then SARS correspondence, then request admin statement of account, then you select the tax period that you want to dispute for, and you click on continue. Once you've clicked on continue, the request admin penalty SOA screen will be displayed, where you'll see the start period as well as the end period that you are requesting, and you click on submit. Once you click on submit, there will be a hyperlink where you'll be required to click, which will say click here to view the SOA, which is that statement of account. Then you'll be able to see the administrative penalty that has been issued by SARS. You'll see the date that it was issued, the amount of that administrative penalty, as well as the dispute option. So you click on dispute to dispute that amount. There are 3 disputable items available on e-filing, which Joanne also advised. So there's 3 disputable items, which is your request for remission, your notice of objection, as well as your notice of appeal. So please be advised that the process that I'm about to show you applies for all 3. So for tonight's example, we will use the request for remission as an example. So on this page, you'll click on, I would like to file a request for remission. Then you click on continue. Then you'll see there will be a table indicating all penalty transactions that were imposed. You then need to select the transaction which is under dispute and for which remission will be requested. So you'll see the list of transactions, select the transaction that you wish to dispute for. The representative details as well as the grounds for dispute will also be displayed. You'll see the particulars of the representative, which needs to be completed, as well as the grounds for the dispute. So your first step is to capture the particulars of the representative. This is now the person who's dealing with the dispute on behalf of the taxpayer. And please note, I just emphasize again that this process is only for personal income tax as well as corporate income tax. The second step then is to capture the reasons as well as the grounds for the dispute. On the grounds for disputes, you do have an option to view the notice if you wish in PDF. If you click on view notice, you'll be able to view that notice in PDF. Then you complete your grounds in the grounds box. Then to submit the dispute, you're going to click on file. The submissions will always be displayed on this page, where you'll see the history of all the disputes that you've done through e-filing. You'll be able to see the dispute type that you have done, as well as the status of that dispute. So we've got different statuses where you find that the status could be that the dispute is in a submitted status, rejected by SARS, or in a send to SARS status, as well as the supporting documents, if you've submitted them or if they were not applicable. Now let's look into how you go about submitting a new dispute from your e-filing profile. You're going to log into your e-filing profile and you're going to click on returns. Then you click on disputes on the left, then you click on new. So meaning it's a new dispute. The new button and request to file dispute page will be displayed with the tax reference number, the tax type, as well as the tax period which you wish to dispute for. The following screen will appear if there is no assessment for the specific period that you've requested. So meaning that you will not be able to proceed with the dispute because it will state that there is no assessment found for that particular period. So where there is an assessment, you'll be able to go through. So on your e-filing profile, you're going to click on returns, disputes, then click on new, and you'll be able to add the dispute items, and you will be required to complete the source code as well as the description. So you have to click on the add button, then you'll be able to select the source code as well as the description. And then we also have an option for you to request a suspension of payment, which is just below those items which is just below the source codes. So you'll be able to see an option to suspension of payment. You'll be able to see that option as well as the period which you wish to suspend the payment for. If there is an assessment and you are able to continue with your dispute, you'll see that your dispute will be in a safe status. And we will now look into the dispute work page, which is a very important functionality when it comes to disputes, as a lot of things need to be done and processed in this option. You'll be able to see your notice of objection that it is saved. And very important, the supporting documents. You'll see a link that states that dispute supporting documents. If you click on this link, you'll be able to attach the supporting documents for your dispute. So if you click on the link, you'll be able to go to the place where your supporting documents were loaded on your machine, and then you add them there. After you've submitted your dispute, you will be able to receive the confirmation that your submission has gone through. You'll see a status with the result that your dispute has been successfully submitted. Please note that you may follow up on the SARS progress of your dispute on the dispute work page. We also give you an option to be able to view all submitted disputes that have been done on your e-filing profile. You can do this by selecting returns on the top, disputes on the left, and then view submitted. You'll see the dispute types that you have submitted, the date which it was submitted, and if you click on open, you'll have that option to actually view that particular dispute. We also give you an option to query the status of your dispute, which is once again found on the dispute work page, where you'll find an option stating query dispute status. There's different responses that you can receive on your profile. So in this example, you've got a response that states that the RFR, NOO, or NOA case has been received by SARS. An outcome notice will be sent to you as soon as the case is completed. Please wait for your notification letter for further details. Another response could be, your RFR, which is your request for remission, is in the process of being resolved. A notice will be sent to you as soon as the case is completed. Please wait for your notification letter for further details or log into your e-filing profile to view the notification. There's also a status where your case has been allocated to a SARS team member, where you'll see the response stating, case has been allocated to a SARS team member and is in the process of being resolved. An outcome notice will be sent to you as soon as the case is completed. Please wait for your notification letter for further details. Another response could be that the dispute is now completed, where you'll see the system stating that the case has been completed, an outcome notice has been sent to you. Please wait for your notification letter for further details or log into your SARS e-filing profile to view the notification letter. We also give you an option to withdraw an already submitted dispute. This can also be done on the dispute work page, where you'll see that option to withdraw. You click on withdraw for that particular period. And then we actually pop up a message, making sure that you are sure that you actually want to withdraw. We state that selecting the OK button will send a request to withdraw the dispute case at SARS, while selecting the cancel button will take you back to the list of disputes. Note that once you withdraw a case, you cannot undo the transactions. And we ask, are you sure you want to withdraw the case? So if you click on OK, your dispute will be withdrawn with SARS. So this comes to the conclusion of my part of the presentation of taking you through the e-filing dispute process. I now hand over to the program director. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. Thank you for the profound and insightful session that we have just given us. I hope our taxpayers, our SMME, were able to follow and understand this process, which is very critical. Like I've said, it's about them today. It's about their rights. They need to understand this process to do it better. What is even more impressive for me is the digital platform that comes with it. So you don't need to go to our branch and queue for this process. You can do it in the comfort of your office. So that is very, very great. And that is very much encouraging. It's actually a very seamless and reliable process that you can follow. I want to confirm that this presentation by my colleagues, Ayanda and Joanne, will be uploaded in our website, which is www.sars.gov.za, just at the end of this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come almost at the end of our webinar, but we can't get there before creating a platform to talk to us, to engage us on the questions and answers sessions. We have received quite a number of questions. I want to encourage you to continue sending the questions, but have a look if your question has not been already sent by one of our traders or our taxpayers. We have seen quite a number of duplication there. At this point in time, I want to invite Dineo to come on stage with her team to engage you on the questions and answers questions. Dineo Tsima is a learning and development manager at SARS with over 16 years of experience. She began her SARS career as a debt collector in the call center. She gained experience dealing with tax and related issues for the tax practitioner and assisting with complex tax queries as a tax facilitator over the years. Dineo has a diploma in human resource from the University of Johannesburg, a BTech degree in marketing from UNISA, a BCom law from UNISA, and a higher diploma in tax law from the University of Johannesburg. A quick reminder that we have a survey at the end of this webinar. Please remember to rate us before you can leave our webinar. Over to you, Dineo, for the questions and answers session.
Thank you, Program Director. It is a privilege to be part of the webinar, which seeks to support the needs of this very important sector of our economy, small, medium, and micro enterprise. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We once again thank you for questions that we have received, as those questions do assist us to test if we are providing enough clarity for your tax obligation as per our strategic objective 1. Your question also assists us to improve our processes and your taxpayer experience, as we are committed to making it easy for all the taxpayers and traders to comply with the tax obligations. Ladies and gentlemen, as the program director indicated, I'm here to facilitate question and answers sessions. I'm not here alone. I do have a panel of experts with me. Team, I'm going to ask you to please switch on your video when I call out your name. I will start with Michelle Hawkins. Michelle is a specialist in the tax court. You're welcome, Michelle. Our next panelist, it will be Tlaisani Matebula. Tlaisani is a consultant in alternative dispute. Thank you, Tlai. Then we're moving on, ladies and gentlemen. We'll call upon Ayanda Takela, the support manager in SARS e-filing and EasyFile. Welcome, Ayanda. Then we move on to Richard Kaje from the Taxpayer and Traders Education. Welcome, Richard. Then we call upon Vaneshri Davids. Vaneshri is from our branch operations. Welcome, Vaneshri. Then we call upon Tantaswa Sidlai from Compliance Audit. Welcome, Tantaswa. Then we call upon Pello Ndweni from Complaint Management Office. Welcome, Pello. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited to be here. You may continue to send your questions on the Q&A chat box. Our panel team will respond to those questions. They have started already. I've seen we have received quite a few and they have tried to respond to most of those questions. Alternatively, you may use the following email, disputeprocess@sars.gov.za, but please note, this email address is only for this webinar related questions and will be closed immediately after this session. But remember, your questions are important to us as they help us build our frequently asked questions document. Therefore, whichever question that we are not able to respond to, we will add them to our FAQ document so that you can access it and then get the responses from there. Okay. So now I'm going to go through the questions that we received from you, our lovely taxpayers, our SMME. I claimed for work from home expenses, attached all evidence and proof, and has been struggling since July. Firstly, I was notified that I'm getting no refund back as I did not attach evidence. It was over 30 pages, the documents that was they needed to be submitted. Then I have resubmitted, but I was informed it must be a dispute. This was the 15th of September already. I will ask Michelle to kindly assist our lovely taxpayer with this question. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Danao. The answer to this is basically the SARS server was recently upgraded to accept documents for the size of 5 megabytes. It cannot accept anything bigger than that. So if your documents, say for example, 30 pages are bigger than the 5 megabytes, you need to break it down into segments and mark it maybe part 1, part 2, part 3. Make sure that these segments go through when you upload it onto your e-filing profile. If you battle to do that, you can always approach the branch by making an appointment on the website, and a legal consultant there will then assist you to scan it in and load it onto your profile. If you have waited for such a long time as indicated in the question, obviously your objection has prescribed and you therefore have to file an application for condonation. That is to explain the reason for your delay and why you had to wait so long before you actually filed your objection. I hope that this answers your question, taxpayer. Back to you, Danao.
Thank you, Michelle. I think it definitely does. Okay, as we're moving on, ladies and gentlemen, the next question is, how long does it take to finalize the dispute and how do I get feedback? I will ask Tlaisani to assist us in responding to that question. Over to you, Tlaini, sorry.
Thank you for the question, Dineo, and good evening. In response thereto, SARS will endeavor to finalize a request for remission within 21 business days in respect of an objection within 60 business days, where SARS requested supporting documents 45 business days after delivery of the requested documents. In respect of an appeal, 90 business days or as agreed by the parties. Further thereto, Dineo, SARS will endeavor to notify the taxpayer if the decision will take longer, for example, due to exceptional circumstances or due to the complexity of the matter. In respect to the outcomes to dispute matters, same is found on e-filing. It can be emailed to a taxpayer or posted to a taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you for that response, Tlanyi. Ladies and gentlemen, you have noticed that Ayanda did cover the part where you are able to go on e-filing and check your statuses. So register on e-filing so that you can have an instant response on the dispute that you have sent through or the outcome that you want to get there off. We're moving on. The next question is, I have a tax dispute that I lodged a while ago and I've not received any feedback. Vaneshri, may I please ask that you assist with that question?
Thank you, Dineo. The taxpayer can follow up by contacting the SARS call center on 0800007277 and make a request for case follow-up. There are also dedicated email addresses wherein the taxpayer can forward queries. The email address is contactus@sars.gov.za. In the event the request is made by a tax practitioner, the email address is pcc@sars.gov.za. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaneshri. We're moving on, ladies and gentlemen. If the taxpayer is having trouble to submit dispute on e-filing, what other options available within the time frame? Pello, may you kindly respond to that question, please, Pello?
Thank you, Dineo. Good evening, everyone. Yes, Dineo, as we try to prioritize taxpayers utilizing our digital services and limiting taxpayers coming to branches. Yes, in some instances, there are challenges where taxpayers are having challenges on e-filing, like on the questions where it says if they're having challenges on e-filing to submit the dispute as per the set timelines. Yes, if the taxpayers are experiencing such problems, the first point of contact, it will be for taxpayer to call us on our SARS Contact Centre line, which is 0800 00 7277. That first point of contact is to try see if the taxpayer, there is something that the taxpayer is not doing right from the e-filing profile, rather than the e-filing as the problem itself. And then if that process is not working out, to assist the taxpayer to submit that dispute to SARS, and then the taxpayer may book an appointment with our agent so that they can be assisted in terms of submitting that dispute, and also be assisted to upload the supporting documents relating to the objection so that the objection can be considered. I hope the answer clarifies the need from the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pello. It certainly does. And ladies and gentlemen, remember that the dispute is time-driven. So it's very important that you stick to the timelines. And the minute that you see that a specific channel is not working for you, please act fast and move on to the next one that has been identified already. As we're moving on, the next question is, what is the time frame for SARS to attend to appeal that are referred to tax boards? Is there any escalation process for tax board matters? I will ask Michelle to respond on this question. Michelle, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Danaya. Yes, there is. The clerk of the tax board must, upon receipt of the taxpayer's appeal, set the matter down within 30 days. Once the matter has been heard, the clerk of the tax board must provide a copy of the ruling within 10 days to both parties. If either SARS or the taxpayer are not satisfied with the ruling, you can elect then to refer the matter to the tax court within 21 days from receipt of this ruling. You will then follow the necessary processes in terms of a tax court dispute. Thank you, Dineo.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking time. So you see that it has timelines. So it's important, please stick to the timelines so that you can receive a proper service on your aggrieved matter. The next question is, what other ways can I access the dispute options besides the new dispute options on e-filing? Ayanda, may you kindly assist us with responding to this question, Ayanda, please?
Thank you, Dineo, for the question. Once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So besides on the new dispute option, there are two other options where you can access your dispute. So the first option is under the statement of account. So on your e-filing profile, you're going to click on returns, go to SARS correspondences, request statement of account, and on the actual statement of account, you'll see the dispute option. And then option 2 is to go to returns history. So if, for an example, it was for VAT, you're going to go to your VAT returns history, and on the VAT work page, you will see that dispute option, and that will apply with all the tax types. So hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Ayanda. It's a very detailed answer, and I think it's also another way of adding to modernizing our SARS. And ladies and gentlemen, you'll see that in each and every process that you follow on e-filing, we try to include these disputes on there. So you want to check your statement of account, you don't have to move out from your statement of account. You quickly, if you see something that is not going all right with what you know of your tax matters, you already in there have an option to dispute, or you want to submit a return, or you check in returns that are outstanding, already in there, you have an option to just click dispute if you feel that something is not going all right. Thank you so much, Yanda. As we proceed, we're getting now to when may a taxpayer object? This question, then we give it to Tantaswa.
Thank you, Dineo. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. A taxpayer may object when he or she is aggrieved by an assessment raised by SARS or by any decision taken by SARS. Thank you, Dineo.
Thank you. We appreciate that answer. So you can't object if there is nothing on the system for you. Like Ayanda has showed us already that when if you choose a wrong period that you want to object to and there's no objections under that period, or there's no assessment under that period, you won't find anything. So whenever you are going through your assessment and then there's anything that you are not happy about, that's the part that then you are able to send your objections. We're moving on, ladies and gentlemen. The next question is, how must documents substantiating the objection be submitted? I will ask Richard to assist us with that question. Richard, over to you.
Thank you, Dineo, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So if e-filing is not used, the substantiating documents may be attached to a form ADR1 and delivered physically or by post to the relevant SARS branch office. And in a case whereby e-filing is used, there is a size limit for uploading on the electronic filing page of the taxpayer. And any surplus must be taken to the relevant SARS branch office for scanning as well as for uploading. Hope that clarifies that. Thanks, Dineo.
Thank you. It certainly does, Richard. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are moving on. The next question is, may SARS request substantiating documents after objection is lodged? Tandaswa, may you kindly assist with responding to this question?
Thank you once more, Dineo. Yes, SARS may request supporting documents to validate your objection. And furthermore, SARS may request additional information to substantiate your claim. Thank you, Dinelle.
Thank you for that. The next question is, must SARS give the basis for disallowing an objection? Pello, may I ask that you respond to this question?
Thank you, once again, yes, on the question to say the SARS must give the basis for disallowing objection. Yes, SARS needs to provide the basis for disallowing an objection in terms of section 106 subsection 5 of the Tax Administration Act for any decisions they take relating to the objections. And that decision, the basis for the decision taken in this instance, which would be disallowance, will be on the objections outcome letter, and it will also incorporate the procedures or the steps to be taken if the taxpayer is still feel aggrieved or unhappy about the decision of disallowance, to be able to take the dispute to the next process, which will be an appeal stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pello. Thank you, members of the panel. And a big thank you to you, ladies and gentlemen, for your questions. We tried answering most of your questions. Those that we could not get to, we will respond to them when we update our frequently asked question document. Let me just rephrase it. Thank you. We don't want to keep you longer than you want to be here, especially with the current state that we are finding ourselves in with the load shedding. We don't want to leave you in the dark. But please note, for any service escalation, you may visit our website. SARS have a dedicated service channel for a small, medium, and micro enterprises where you can easily find information to assist with your tax obligations. These channels are the SMME webpage on the SARS website. That's www.sars.gov.za. You will find a link to SMME webpage on the landing page. You can also call our contact center 0800-007-277 and you choose option 6. The other nice thing about this is that you can also request a callback. You can as well book an appointment on our website and choose the SMME option. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found clarity from this session and that you'll find it easy to meet your tax obligations. Thank you. Good evening. Aibe Boroko. Over to you, Program Director.
Wow, thank you so much, Zineo, for that moving and interesting session. It was really very live and very engaging. Thank you very much to you and your amazing team. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to confirm that all these questions and answers that have been dealt with my colleagues, as well as those that we haven't attended to, will indeed be placed in our website, which is www.sars.gov.za. We have a bank of questions and answers there for you. You are encouraged to log in and follow through. I still want to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that as soon as you leave the webinar, you will be directed to the survey. Please remember to complete the survey. It takes less than just 5-6 seconds, then you'll be done with the survey. We really want to hear from you. We want to get feedback regarding today's webinar. We'll then come to that part of this webinar where it's almost the end of the webinar. Being towards the end of the webinar, I would like to invite my colleague Hlaisani Matebula on stage to give us the closing remarks for this evening. Over to you, Hlaisani.
Program Director, we would like to extend our gratitude to you, sir, for steering this ship in the right direction. We can all confidently say that the mission of the day was indeed accomplished. To my SARS colleagues, the SARS leadership, the presenters, the panel members, the auditors, the ADR process facilitators, the tax board team, the tax court team, and various IT units, thank you for the contributions made to ensure that today was a success. To our guests of honor, the SMME's representatives, the tax practitioners, the taxpayers, the complaints management team, and all who attended, all protocol observed, thank you for taking time off your schedule to enable us to impart knowledge to you and for us to further note matters of concern, which will form part of a strategic plan on how we can better serve you. Last but not least, to the team that organized this event, I would like to first quote the wise words of Utata Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world, close quote. With that said, thank you for this enabling platform. A job well done indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, rest assured that SARS is still pushing forth with its mandate, which is to collect all revenues due, ensure optimum compliance with tax and customs and excise legislation, provide a customs and excise service that will facilitate legitimate trade, as well as protect our economy and society. Please be reminded to visit our website, wherein you'll find guiding materials such as external guides and interpretation notes to assist you in better formulating your disputes. Please also visit our SARS TV on YouTube and our web pages, which is Twitter, LinkedIn, and on Facebook. From my side, good evening, peace, and good night. Thank you, Program Director.
Thank you, Saisani. Thank you very much. Indeed, the vision towards smart, modern SARS is indeed becoming a reality by the day. Please look out for our next webinar while we're continuing with the journey of providing clarity and certainty. Remember to rate our webinar as you leave this webinar. It's just 5 seconds. Thank you very much. Until then, please be safe and have a lovely and a safe evening. Thank you.
Fellow South Africans, I'm addressing you.
All
this
your
evening
years of
on a
paying
national-
tax, you still wonder, why does it matter?
It is true that we are facing a great emergency.
It matters now more than ever. It matters to those who are exposed to harm to keep us away from it. The ones that leave behind all that they love. Your tax matters to them. Those who spend endless hours standing on their feet to care for others. It matters to those who are always at the heart of any crisis and our future generations. It matters to those who put so much love into giving selflessly to each and every family living on the breadline. It matters to all of us. To all taxpayers, pay your fair share. Do it for your nation. Your tax matters.
IT